am feeling the value, my friends, my enemies. Shalom, everyone. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And it is my pleasure and my delight and my hilarious honor to be talking to a stand-up comedian, an actor, an all-around fun guy. Let me tell you a little bit about this fella. You have seen him on Carson. You've seen him on David Letterman. You've seen him on Merv Griffin. And Merv Griffin said, "Get off me." Like, that's a little joke there. He was the star on TV of the sitcom Just the 10 of Us and a couple of the Norman Lear programs, including Fernwood Tonight and America Tonight as that character, Tony Rolletti. He was also in such legendary movies as They Call Me Bruce, Stooge Mania, Gorp, and who can forget Skate Town, USA. We are skating in the pond of joy, ladies and gentlemen, with our guest this morning, Bill Kirkenbauer. Shalom, Bill. How are you?
Shalom, Rabbi. Rabbi, thank you very much. That was a great intro, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, that's very good. Usually I get one thing wrong and the guests complain.
No, you did good.
I did good. What was
intros are very important. You did a good one.
Well, I'm honored. I am touched. In fact, I was touched by another rabbi, and I'm doing a civil suit. But here's the deal for you. You are where you are right now. It is not 10 o'clock in the morning. It is 10 o'clock at night, right?
That's right. Yes.
Why?
I probably set a record for I don't know how many people you've interviewed, but I probably set the record for the farthest away person. I'm in Phnom Penh, Cambodia right now.
And you've been there a while. I mean, it's like on Facebook, I see you, and it's you're still in Cambodia. What the hell? It's like Apocalypse Now. What are you still doing there?
I'm waiting to get into Thailand, which was my original place to go. And everybody asked me, why are you going to Thailand? And it's a long story. I can make it short. Years ago, about 10 years ago, I made a mistake and took my son to Thailand, and he fell in love with it. He thought it was great. He was like 16, and had been there a couple times before, and he said, "Oh, Dad, I really like this place. I want to go to college here." And I said, "Are you crazy? This is the other side of the world." He goes, "No, they got a really good college, and they teach in English, and they get all these teachers from Oxford and Northwestern and Chicago on sabbatical. They go there and they teach for a year, So all these great teachers, and look how much you only have to pay."
That's right.
So that got me in, and then he decided
it's like nothing. Yeah.
Oh, it was a deal. It was such a deal, and. So I said, well, okay. And then he did a lot of commercials when he was a kid. So he had some money, and he said, "I'm going to buy a condo." And I said, "Are you crazy? This is on the other side of the world." So he bought this condo, and he went to college there and studied international finance. And then he talked me into buying a condo several years ago. He said, "You and Mom should retire over here." And so I did. I bought this place when it was just an empty lot. And they built this 38-story building now. And so I had this condo. So that was ultimately the deal when my wife retired from her job, which was working for the city of Lakeway outside of Austin, Texas. Pack up everything and, come here. And so we couldn't get into Thailand. They've locked down. And so my son has some business that he does here in Cambodia, and he could get us in here. So we said, okay, because we had to do it. My wife had already retired, and COVID had hit, and we really, I always tell people it's my wife and I were like the hero and his girlfriend running towards the camera at the action movie when the world explodes behind them.
Yeah.
That's how we felt, because we really just got out under the wire, and we had to jump away through a few hoops, but they had very little COVID. Of course, I didn't know this when I planned to come here, that COVID would exist, but COVID, there's very little here. They've taken care of it really well, so we don't have to worry about that. We're going to get our shots actually in a few weeks, but ultimately we're trying to go to Thailand so we can live in Thailand.
So how long have you been in Cambodia, though, in Phnom Penh? How long?
Since let's see, the beginning of November. We had to do 2 weeks quarantine, and then we rented an apartment, and we're sitting here and kind of enjoying Cambodia is not quite as nice as Thailand as far as infrastructure and things like that, but it's fun. It's Southeast Asia. There's all the great foods and
That's why I'm
all this
curious.
stuff.
Besides having great places to eat and street food, I'm sure is amazing there.
Hmm.
What do you do for fun? I mean, because at least Thailand has the lady boys. What do you have in Cambodia that is for enjoyment?
Well, we last week we took a little trip to a place called Kempot, which is about 3 hour drive from Phnom Penh, and it's on the river. And if you drive a little bit further, you get to this other little town called Kep, which is on the on the Bay of Thailand. And there's seafood there in places, and there's a mountain you can go up to the top of it where there's a casino and some ancient stuff because the kings would swelter in the heat of the valley, and they figured out if they built a place up on the mountain, it's a lot cooler. So there's a lot of history that goes on up there going back thousands of years, and something I never even knew about. I mean, we just went there to get crab, and so we ended up
A lot of
on
people
this
go to
mountain.
Thailand and get crabs.
But it's
Definitely.
it's old. I mean, it's the history over here is very old. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm in Cambodia. Eventually, I'm hoping about August we can get into Thailand.
Wow. But you wouldn't want to just go back to the States for a while. You're done.
No,
you're sold everything.
no,
Wow.
no. Yep, sold, gave away, or moved.
Is there anything about America that you miss?
Oh yeah, there's a few things. I miss a really good hamburger. I miss garbage disposals. I miss let's see what
You miss garbage. What, they have goats? I mean, what do you do with your garbage?
uh you have to, like my mother used to do, your leftovers, garbage disposals, not garbage. They do have garbage
Oh,
pickup.
they pick up. You just yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the good disposal where you just shove your food down the sink, that kind of thing. I miss that. There's several things. We were looking for Fritos the other day and couldn't find them.
Oh.
You can get a lot of stuff, but you can get, you got to pay the price. I mean, I can't get my Fritos, but on the other hand, I can walk 2 blocks and eat freshly made cheap dim sum. So
I'll take that over Cheetos 9 times out of 10. Yeah.
and you'll like this. I found some bagels today.
Oh! What, they make a vermicelli? How do they make bagels there?
No, they're actually the Western Bagel out of Van Nuys, which is an old company. When I lived in Los Angeles, I used to eat Western bagels sometimes. Not the best in the world, but I was so happy to see them.
Well,
So
there,
we
so
actually
bagel has shrimp
Yeah.
on it and
yeah,
kimchi.
they do.
I don't know
Yeah,
what the hell. What is the Cambodian national dish? Do you even know?
it's something called lak lak, which is kind of a dark. It's pieces of beef, and when I say beef, I'm a little iffy. Beef is a hard. I haven't been eating much beef. It's hard to find. You get spoiled by American beef. They get a lot of Australian and New Zealand beef,
All
and
right.
it's not like American beef with the marbling in it and all of that, and it tastes a little funky, and so. But
I'm guessing the kashrut laws are not observed there. I'm just guessing.
No.
That they're kosher.
No.
No,
No.
not even.
no.
Even the bagels aren't koshered properly. It's just one of those things.
No.
So-
So that's why I'm here.
We're talking with Bill Kirkenbauer. I know we're talking about your current situation with the pandemic. It's great that you're doing so well, but let's talk about your life. Let's talk about your career. When did you decide to be a funny guy?
Pretty early, actually. I would say probably around 5. My grandmother bought me some puppets, little hand puppets, and I started entertaining my friends with that. And I did puppets for a while, and then as I got older, I got like a Jerry Mahoney type puppet, and then straight. So my first love was puppetry, and then when I got to be about 12, my buddies started making fun of me for having all these dolls. so and that really wasn't it. I just kind of outgrew it and stuff. Then I started doing impressions.
Oh,
And I
Okay.
would do impression. I had a little tape recorder, one of those little reel-to-reel tape recorders, and I would record impressionists. I would I would get the TV guide as soon as it came out, and I'd look in all the talk shows and see which impressionists were going to be on. The Rich Little,
Fred
David
Travelina.
Fry,
Yeah.
Fred. This is going back before Fred Travelina,
Yeah.
but back really Rich Little and I would record them, and I did impressions of impressionists doing impressions.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, no, that's what they
and I
said.
got pretty good at it.
We usually, when we hear certain people where somebody's doing Groucho Marx, no, they're not doing Groucho. They're doing this comedian doing Groucho,
Right,
this comedian doing Jimmy Durante, and so forth.
right.
It's
But I got pretty good at it, considering I was about 16, and that's when I first started like at talent shows for the high school and stuff, getting up in front of people and doing that. And then I kind of learned that the trouble with impressions is that comedically they're very limited. All you can do is do exactly what the person did. Like, here's John Wayne. Well, let's get them horses over it, or here's John, or you can take them out of context. Here's John Wayne working at McDonald's. What do you want to shake with that? So that's all you can do. That's really all you can do. So comedically, it's kind of, and I love a good impression. Everybody loves a good impressions, but it was comedically limiting. So I decided, well,
actually,
maybe.
very quick. I will let you
Yeah.
continue with them.
Sure.
What is your most like unusual impression? What is the impression that audiences are? I mean, because everybody, John Wayne, okay, John Wayne.
Yeah, no, see, that's the pressure. That's the problem, though. See, they get old, and nobody.
So
A lot of
who is the
people
one that people would be like, oh, I wasn't expecting that? Who is your best like?
Oh, I did all the typical
Eleanor
ones.
Roosevelt or something.
I do a really good. I do a good George Burns. And George Burns is hard to do because he has different dimensions to his voice. And as George Burns, George would talk like this, and then he kind of go up like that and kind of high, and then he would go very, very low like this. So it's very kind of a diversified type of boom, 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 down in the garden where the red roses grow. Oh my, I want to go pluck me like a flower, cuddle me an hour, all but learn the red rose track, boom, it's over. So I like doing George Burns. He was fun. I do a good Jimmy Stewart, but see, nobody remembers. That's the problem with impressions too. Your subject matter dies, and as you get older, the new people don't remember who they. I mean, I'm going to do Al Jolson. Who? So So
well, you can't do Al Jolson anyway because he's been canceled. Yeah, oh, he's the guy who put the black. Oh no, we can't. No.
Yeah. So I just
no.
Yeah.
Right.
See, they die and they go, they just become old hat. And then so I decided that's not good. So I just decided to start doing stand-up comedy. I studied mime for a couple of years. And so I learned how to make people laugh without talking. And it's kind of an evolution, but in the back of my head, I always had the stand-up comedian thing to do. And I've always watched the great comedians. I was very lucky to grow up in all the great comedians that they had in the 50s and 60s, and then actually become a part of what they call the golden age of stand-up comedy, which was like 73 through about 84 or something like that. And I was at the Comedy Store, and I grew up. I myself grew and developed my act and came up in the age of the Comedy Store.
So first of all, who was like your favorite comedian in the 50s, 60s that you watched and went, the most one I want to be like?
Well, I never would seek to be like anybody, but if I have to say who's my favorite comedian and who I admire the most, I'd have to say George Carlin, because George was more than a comedian. He was a truth speaker, and he was a philosopher with comedy. He was very prolific. I was lucky enough to be friends with him and got to know him. And so he was a sweet, dear man. And I just consider him to be just a continuum of Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, no, we were very honored to have his daughter on the program a couple of years
Oh,
ago.
yes,
Kelly.
yes, yes, yes.
So, but tell us
Kelly,
if you have one, an anecdote, the story can be
okay,
funny or
I'll
not.
tell you. I'll
Carlin.
tell you one. This is a funny thing he did for me and me only, because he and I were alone. I was at his house, and he took me out to. He had like a garage that he had turned into a work an office, and we go in there, and I see all these signs on the wall that there were signs, like you'd see backstage. Well, he got them from backstages. There was a little sign. They were weird signs like men's choir room, women only, or things, weird, funny signs like this. And and they were, each one was funny because it was either contradictory or stupid or something. You just go, what? And he had probably 50 of them on us. And I said to him, George, where did you get all these signs? And he said, why do you think they call it ripoff? And he went like that. Well, evidently, he in his career, he saw these, he yamped them on. He said, I got to have this. So that, and I remember thinking that was very funny. He was a really sweet guy.
He shared that with you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So when you were coming up already, I mean, he was still a contemporary in a manner of speaking, 73, 74, 75.
No, he was before me. I watched him in college. I mean, he was a hero of mine. So the fact that I did my first Tonight Show with him. And so to meet him and get to know him and stuff, and he was just an incredible and prolific. I mean, look at all the material he put out. He was a word master. He was a word master. He knew how to take the word. So, but of those other, Robert Klein, I loved Robert Klein. He was so normal. When he would go on the Ed Sullivan show, he wasn't like a clown. He wasn't like, I want to tell you, he wasn't, he was just like a collegiate kind of just a guy. And he had great material, a bit about the car, leave me alone, the car trying to start in the morning, leave me alone, I mean, these are bits that, so
please don't try and start me. Please don't try and start me. Yes.
Yeah. Leave me alone. Please don't start me. Please don't start me. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Yeah.
Really, all these things. By the way, I am honored that we've had Robert Klein on this program. So
really?
Great.
Oh,
okay.
So he was one of the great one of the undercredited stand-up comedians of the 60s. He kind of had his own little genre.
Close to a Robin Williams type a little bit.
Yes, I started doing comedy like about 74. I was there when Robin came to town. I met, I mean, all the great Letterman. I remember there was a place out in the valley we used to go to called the Showbiz. It was owned by Murray Langston, who was the unknown comic.
Right.
And he had his own theater. He had his own little club. It was kind of a crappy little club, but his joke about it was it used to be a lesbian bar. It had pool tables, but no balls. But he was there. And this is the first time I met Letterman when Letterman came to town, and he had a beard kind of like he's got now, except it was red. And he came. So it was just all these great people that I've had the honor to work with, become friends with, and learn from,
well, could you like when someone like a Letterman at that stage came on stage and was getting into it, could you tell that he had something that he was funny?
Yeah, he did a lot of hosting at the Comedy Store. And that's why he became so glib. Of course, he was a broadcaster before that, right. But he didn't get up and do bits, do the 10 minutes. He would host the shows, and so he would interact with the audience just like he does now, used to. And I'll tell you who I saw a few times in my career. I have worked with people and I've looked at them and I've said, they're going to be a star. There's just something about them. And the first one was Michael Keaton. He came to work. He was a stand-up comedian. A lot of people don't remember that. But he came to Murray's and he worked there, and he was just a young kid. But he had this likable charisma. Speaking of Robert Klein, I could tell he'd watched Robert Klein a lot. But Michael, whose name was Michael Douglas at the time, he had to change his name. His real name was Michael Douglas. But he just had this likability about him, and it was just. And I just looked at him. I said, "This guy's going to be a star." Now, it wasn't as a stand-up comedian; he was an actor, but it was the same thing. Yeah.
And who
And then
else?
the other,
Other-
let's see the other, and I always forget the guy on Friends.
David Schwimmer?
No, not Schwimmer, not Schwimmer. And not the other two guys were actually guests on my sitcom, but Matt,
I
Matt,
can't remember, but yeah.
Matt LeBlanc was on there, but the other guy, Matt,
The non-Matt LeBlanc guy. Yeah.
yeah, the non-Matt, but that, yeah,
I know.
he was a guest on my show, and he came on, and I just said this guy just got a charisma, likability, and I remember walked up to him, I said, "You're going to be a star someday," and he was just nobody then. And he said, "Oh, Matt, oh, I can't remember his name, Matt, him." But and he did well. He did well.
Speaking of doing well, what was it like doing a sitcom? I mean, you lucked out. You hit the jackpot. You starred in a television sitcom
For 3 years.
Was it
good like that?
80 hours a week? You just had half a day off where you have to start memorizing a script. Right? I mean, just was it, not impossible, but like a life that you have no other life?
Sitcoms are actually closer to being able to have, that's a good question, a regular life, because they are kind of a 9 to 5 job. Most of them are just during the week, and so you can have your weekend off. I happen to be very lucky. I lived in North Hollywood, right on the border of there in Toluca Lake. I bought a house back there in the 70s, and the studio, not the big studio, but the building, the studio was the closest studio to my house. It was down in Burbank. It was about a mile away. And the building, now the studio was on this what they used to call the Warner Brothers a lot, and ranch, Warner Brothers Ranch, and that building was the closest studio to I couldn't have gotten a closer studio in all of the Los Angeles area. I used to ride my bike and take my lunch, and so it was amazing. I mean, it was just but to get back to but you can have a regular life with a sitcom. When you have to shoot these 1 hour series where it's done like a movie, like like SVU or something like that. It's like a movie, and you got to get up early. You got to go somewhere. Sometimes they're on location. Sometimes they're here. That's a lot of work. That's like shooting a movie every week, and that can totally consume your life.
Now,
but sitcoms are like a 9 to 5 job. You can have a fairly decent regular life. You have your weekends off, and
But I also want to talk about the comedy thing with you, because that's where you first started, and it's rather interesting that you have a quote unquote not nice story about the guy that we think is the nicest guy in the world, and more of a nice story about the Tonight Show host who everybody feels a little oaky about. So you basically got your start via Merv Griffin, the great Merv.
Yes.
Griffin, and yet your first experience with Merv Griffin, you thought your career was going to be in the toy.
Oh, that story.
I know it's on another podcast.
Okay.
We don't have you do it, so you do it.
Yeah.
Tell us about, you're doing a gig, and
okay. Can I say anything I want on here?
you can use any word you want, including.
Okay, good. I did a buddy of my show, and I said the F word, and he went, no. I said, what are you playing to kids? Well, anyway. So, yeah, I was working at the Comedy Store Westwood one night, and that was an extension that Mitzi Shore, who had the Comedy Store up on Sunset, decided she was going to put a little comedy store over by Westwood, which was good because there was thousands and thousands of college kids. So it was a good spot. So I was working there one night late. And when I say late, I'm talking maybe midnight, 11:30, midnight, maybe even 12:30.
That's still a decent slot for places like
that.
Well,
it was all right. It kept going until it closed, but I mean, there weren't that many people at this time. I was maybe 4 people in the audience. I'm doing my act, and I see in the background, 3 or 4 people move across the back of the thing and go over and sit in this booth over here in the corner, which was kind of a nice booth place to sit. And then some of the comedians who were hanging around waiting to get on or had been on kind of gravitated over to this area over here, and everybody started talking. And, there weren't that many people in the audience at one point. So I said, hey, guy, either shut the fuck up or get out. But don't, screw up my show. And so they kind of dispersed, and I saw the figures get up and go outside, and then I finished my act. I got off stage, and the MC, I don't know who it was at the time, came up to me and said, Bill, you just might as well pack up your shit and leave town. He said, you just told Merv Griffin to get the fuck out, shut up or get the fuck out. I said, no. He said, yes. He said, you came in here and everybody's talking, kissing his ass.
But they were rude.
Yeah, well, you're right, rude. And you should never, no matter who you are, you should never make that much. Yeah. But, and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And, so I, at the time I had a kind of a beard and wore puka shells. And that weekend, I think I had a girlfriend and we got drunk and she said, let's change the way you look then. So we got rid of the puka shells and she shaved me. And a couple of weeks later, same situation. I was doing a lane and in comes Merv again, but I'd gotten gun shy and I think I kind of figured out it was him. And he came in and watched my act and a couple other guys on the left. And the next day I got a call from his talent guy at home. And this is what they would do. They saw you at the comedy club. They'd call up the comedy store and say, hey, can we have so-and-so's number, and they call you directly. So I got a call from his talent. Hey, Merv saw you the other night in the comedy club. Maybe you'd like to do our show. And I said, sure. So that was the first national show I did for stand-up. And Merv was a great guy. He was only one of the talk show hosts that didn't have an entourage that hung around him backstage. He was just back there. He talked to you and stuff. And so after about 3 or 4 shows, I was doing the show and I saw him backstage and he said, oh, hey, Bill, I see you're back on the show. I said, yeah, thanks a lot for having me. He said, yeah, well, have a good show. He says, but I tell you, he said, I ain't getting the fuck off of my own show. You're not kicking me out of here. Because I always wondered whether he knew if he made that connection, if it was me. But he was a great guy.
But that's a mention of him to it worked very, very well, essentially. Yes. Now we talk about, of course, the other elephant in the room, which is was never bad to him. I mean, you don't really have a bad Carson story, except like the Booker talent guy there. You said didn't really know.
Very often, as with any business, people get raised up into positions just through the fact that the person above them either died or quit or whatever. And they had this guy who was the talent coordinator there, and he would go around and he would look at people, and his job was to search out new comedians. That was specifically what he did with comedians, because they would have 3 or 4 comedians on every week. So there was always this need for new talent. And his name was Jim McCauley. And he was a nice enough guy, but I never thought he really knew much about comedy. He would say things to me. I call it pissing in the pond. When people want to say that they added to the, well, that's that pond. That's a beautiful pond. Well, I pissed in it. I put my 2 cents in. So it's what I call bullshit contribution. And so he always would like to piss in the pond. And he would say things like, well, maybe you should say green instead of blue. Oh, yeah, that'll help the joke a lot. Yeah, you're right, Jim. And, you kiss his ass because he held the keys.
He had obviously an eye for talent. I mean, if he booked a lot of big people, but then he had to make his little,
but anybody that went around town and looked at all the comedians could see who was funny and who wasn't. It didn't take a genius. I think what he might have known is he knew what Johnny liked, or he would say that. Well, Johnny wouldn't like that. Johnny wouldn't understand that. That's a little too Johnny. So his job was to not cater to the audience, but to cater to what Johnny, because Johnny was the say-all, and that's who he had to make happy. So he would give suggestions, but there's always somebody there that holds the key to the door that you want to go through. So, I mean, he always liked me. I was lucky. I was a little bit different than most of the comedians they had on there. Johnny liked me. I had very little interaction with him. I'll tell you a story. When I was a kid, again, I love Johnny Carson. I mean, I would stay up and watch. I watched him for years. I learned a lot from him. And one time when I was about in 7th grade, my parents, we weren't doing all that great. My dad had retired from the Army, and they didn't have a lot of money at the time. And so what they did was they wrote off to Johnny Carson when he was in New York and asked him for an autographed picture for me. And they got it. And he sent it. And I think it was for my birthday.
That is nice. I mean, it may have been signed by Fred de Cordova.
No, it was signed by him. It was wearing a Nehru jacket and a turtleneck. That's how far back this was.
Oh, no,
but he was from New York. So I had this picture, and in fact, to this day, I have this picture.
Good.
And it was an 8x10, and I saved it. And after a few shows, I decided I'd do something funny. So I took one of my 8x10 pictures, and I took white out and a black magic marker, and I adjusted the picture with my drawing and stuff. It gave me hair, drew on the Nehru jacket with the white. I made my 8x10 look as much like the one Johnny had sent me. And so before the show, one time I was doing the show, he was in his own little dressing room. He had his own little dressing room. And I knocked on the door, and I said, Johnny, could I talk to you? He said, sure, come on in. So I showed him this. I told him the story. I showed him the picture. He knew I wasn't bullshitting. I said, I've had this ever since I was a kid. I said, and he laughed because, it was a Nehru jacket and the thing. And then I said, but, since I've been to shows so much, I thought maybe I thought I'd give you a picture of my 8x10. And so I gave the bit and his the Billy from Johnny. And I wrote from
Billy to
from Johnny to Billy, and I wrote from Billy to Johnny and gave it to him, and he got a laugh, and then he left it in the dressing room, which I didn't expect him to take it home.
Carry on.
But I was later told by one of the talent coordinators, they said, wait a minute, you went and knocked on his makeup thing while he was getting makeup done? I said, yeah. He said, and you went in? I said, yeah. He said, whoa. He said, he must have liked you. He said, because I'm surprised he didn't tell you get the fuck out of there, because he was very private. That was kind of an invasion of his, as far as they were concerned, an invasion of his privacy a little bit. And he was surprised he even let me in there. So I didn't know.
I do want to clue people in, by the way. You appeared on the Carson show several times. There's one where you really killed, and I mean, and you killed so well that you got the call. And this is what we were building up to before, that you got, it's like, no, it's not, we'll go to commercial. It's like, oh, come sit down on the couch for 2 minutes. Come talk to Johnny for 2 minutes. And this is when you were like, because it was a very physical act, and I don't think you were expecting it. You were drenched. And you sit with Johnny, and you were going to have a cute thing to banter with him. But this is where that guy,
this is him. His pissing in the pond. I had my show at the time, and he said to me, Johnny can say, oh, you have that show where you have 10 kids. He said, and then you can say, and that doesn't make Planned Parenthood, people at Planned Parenthood very happy. And I thought, okay, is that supposed to be funny? So
that pause was beautiful. Yes.
So I go over and I sit down, and Johnny says to me, I hear you got this new show on another network. And I said, yeah, it's on ABC. I said, the alphabetically #1 network. And because I was on NBC, Johnny was on NBC. And then I said, and that doesn't make the Planned Parenthood I couldn't remember. And I sat there and went, to this day, I can't watch this. I said, yeah, and that doesn't make the people at the people that
yeah, you went all Jerry Lewis on him, and he immediately was very graceful, but he said, okay,
we're going to go to commercial.
Yeah,
and I thought, this son of a bitch, he tried to tell me to do something that wasn't funny, that I couldn't remember, and that's what I got for it. And to this day, I cannot watch that little thing. I said,
but the rest of it, the first 5 minutes are fabulous. The first 5 minutes is
it was fun. It was fun. It's hard to go do stand-up and then go sit down right away. They usually would. But
yeah. When was the last time you did a stand-up gig? I mean, were you working up until COVID, or were you already retired?
Well, I produced a show years ago. I was in Vegas, and I was looking through all the shows that were available, and I saw a lot of these tribute shows, Michael Jackson and Cher and all that, and I went to a couple of them, and I thought, if you can do this with musicians, can you do this with comedians? And so I started looking around, and I had a friend of mine that did a great Sam Kinison. I mean, he really looks and sounds like Sam. So, and he needed a job. So I called up Legends in Concert. which is the big company that they've been doing this. And they were the originators of the tribute shows. And I said, hey, I got a friend of mine that does, Sam Kennison. I said it would be, and Sam had been dead about a year. And they said, no, we don't do comedians. Click, and hung up. And a little light bulb went off over my head. And I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a show with comedian impersonators. So this was 1996. And I spent about a year looking over the country. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of lookalikes. There's the world of lookalikes, and a lot of the lookalikes just happen to look like they work their insurance salesman, or they work at the bank, and they're not just happen to look like there's no talent for the most part. And for what a lot of them do, they don't need anything, but they can't sometimes do the voice. And so to find somebody that can look like, sound like, act like, and has the comedic timing to tell a joke was very hard. I went and looked and I put together a little stable of about 10 or 12 people. I had a guy, George Burns. I had a great Jack Benny. I had an incredible Red Skelton. I had, at the time, a Roseanne Barr, a Bill Cosby, and had a different.
By the way, if you're still doing that show, I do an amazing Bill Barth. So if you're ever looking for a
okay.
Yeah. I shave, or a lot of makeup. It covers. It's good. I'm very good.
I had a guy that did Dangerfield that used a decent about it, but see, these are more than impressions. Impressions you do for 35 seconds. These are shows that. So anyway, and over the years, I did that show for about 10 years. It was rather expensive because there were a decent amount of people in it, and air travel and all that stuff. And so and a couple of my guys died. The George Burns guy was an actual old guy, and he died. My Jack Benny guy, he was an actual old guy, and he died. And then my Red Skelton guy, he died. My Jack Dangerfield guy, he died. And so a lot of them got shipped away at.
Probably been thinking in terms of, what, these people aren't going to be remembered, not your impressionists, but the original people aren't that. You should have been looking for a George Carlin guy. You should have been looking for.
I did. I had a George Carlin guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I had a George, but he made more money flipping houses than I could offer him, so he didn't want to particularly do it. So it was a different one. So, and I had this one guy that I'd hired named Roger Cabler, who did Robin Williams, and so when Robin died, about a year later, I called Roger and I go, hey, Roger, I'm still doing the Legends of Comedy, but it's really expensive. I had a hard time selling it. Maybe just a show of you and me. We go around, I'll open up the show. And then you do Robin Williams for 50 minutes. And so I've been doing that for about 6 years with Roger. And it's called it's called the Ultimate Robin Williams Tribute Experience. And he does an amazing job. If you go to robinexperience.com, robinexperience.com, you can see the show. You can see what he's, and he is absolutely, you swear to God you're watching Robin Williams. And I know Robin Williams. I did a form work in Mendy's. I knew him from the day he hit town. I have watched him all for the 40 years that he did performing. And it was just, I know him, and Roger has him down to the fingertips, the way he holds his hand, the way, oh, look at that. It's incredible. Oh, look at that. The moon like a testicle hangs low in the sky. Oh, it's incredible. And so he does this Robin and Red. So to answer your question, yes, we were doing shows, and then COVID hit, and we're just starting to go back to doing shows now. We're doing a streaming show actually on Stellar Entertainment. It's a streaming network, Stellar's STELLAR, on April 1st. He's going to be doing a show there, so people can go to and check that out. And he's working on a movie. I actually have a movie that I'm just finished up that it's taken me 4 years to do, called Taking Al Back Home. It's the story of my dad was in the Army. And I didn't know it until I was an adult, that he was a hero in World War II. And he got a lot of these, he didn't talk about it. And when he died, he had his ashes, cremated. My mother got them, she kept them, and then she died. And then I got them. And he wanted them spread on this river up in Michigan in his hometown. And before we went left the country, I said to my wife, I got to do this. This is something I have to do for my father.
Right.
I figured as long as I'm going to do it, I'm going to make a movie out of it. So I made a documentary called Taking Al Back Home. It's a story, a father and son's last road trip, where we go and I go on this road trip, and I have my dad in his box and his little blue hat. Where's the blue hat? Still have the hat. And we go on this road trip up from Texas up to Michigan, and it's some of the adventures and the things that I do. And I'm just finishing that up, and that's going to be available, and it's going to be on Netflix. They just don't know it yet. And or Amazon, they just don't know. So I'm just finishing it up, and then now the hard part to get distributed. So that's what I've been doing. And through the magic of computers, I can still do this stuff and be in Cambodia. I can talk to you.
Yeah,
so that's
amazing. Let me ask you, and to just make sure, people can find you pretty easily on Facebook. But do you have a website? Do you have a Bill Kirkenbauer?
Yeah, BillKirchenbauer.com actually,
and
they can go there. And I'm on Facebook.
Yeah, well, of course I'm on Facebook. This is how I conduct my services now. I don't want to get near anybody. I don't want to get the corona or the leprosy. It's all out there. But
let me ask you a question now.
Of course.
And I asked a lot of my Jewish friends this. Let me ask you something, Rabbi. Why are Jews so funny?
Oh, why are Jews so? Because we're generally miserable. We're miserable, sad creatures. And the only way, I get up in the morning and it's like, okay, do I do a Kurt Cobain? Do I put my toe on a shotgun, or do I maybe say a prayer and make breakfast? And then I'll stand at the toilet in the bathroom. And it's like, if it takes me less than 8 minutes to pee, I'm like, okay, no shotgun today. I'm going to go forward and live. And the whole day is like this. I have my dear darling wife, Miriam Libby, and our 21 and a half children. And some days she'll give me a look and I'm like, shotgun. And other days it's like, maybe just pills. But I get through the day. This is why it's surviving in a generally hostile world. That's a great question. And you're like, aren't you of German extraction? What are you from?
I'm actually found out. I was born in Austria. This gets into my movie now about what happened to me. But I always thought I was Austrian, but I'm actually Romanian.
Oh my gosh!
I'm from Romania. My people left Romania to get away from Hitler. Ended up in Austria.
Sure, they did. Sure, yeah, they went to Austria to avoid Hitler. That's what I saw. Sure, they went Polish. Jesus.
No. So I'm Romanian.
All right. Now,
I've asked that people, why are Jewish people so funny? And one of the interesting things that I thought somebody said was because the communities have all these characters in them, all these great characters, the Mensch, the cheap son of a bitch, the old nosy lady, the cantor.
I'm two of those three already. Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And just like the Italians are funny too. But the Jewish communities, when they used to be communities like in New York, they had all these characters from which they derived humor. And I think that had a lot to do with it. And when you're growing up and you live amongst, characters as opposed to boring people, then that brings out your humor. And
I think so. I think every culture has that. I think it's also Jews wanting to stay one step of the oppressor, one step ahead of the people, whether it's in business, whether it's dealing with authorities, Cossacks, police. It's sort of like, how can I just be a little bit quicker, a little bit sharper, a little bit funnier, so that I don't get a club in the head and thrown into Siberia for 20 years?
Well, my dad was, like I said, in the Army. So that's kind of what you're talking about. What I used to do, which was because I went to 12 schools in 14 schools in 12 years. And sometimes I would have to enter into the school in the middle of the year. So I broke into hey, how you doing? Oh, well, we won't beat him up because he's kind of funny.
If you can make your opponent laugh, you sort of disarm.
Right.
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 Now, granted, I would
Exactly.
rather be of a culture where you can disarm an opponent by actually cutting off their arm. But you look at me, I'm like, no, I better be funny. This is
Okay.
to understand that. Now, before we
Yes.
bring Dave back and you start playing the trivia game against our
Right.
regular contestants, that's coming up in a moment or two. We never got to speaking of funny Jewish people. Norman Lear, you were on two of his most unusual and yet classic TV shows. There was America Tonight. Well, first Fernwood Tonight and America
Yes.
Tonight. Can you tell us any stories about doing that or working with Martin Mull and Fred Willard? Anything
Well,
in that era?
that was, that was my first acting job, I think. It was. And I sold videotape equipment for a living, actually, for when the infancy of videotape equipment that people could afford, in their homes. And I worked at this camp called talk about I worked at this place called Henry's Camera downtown. It was owned by German Jews. And this is where I learned business. I never knew you could negotiate for stuff. I mean, I grew up in
Oh
a
God,
world.
yeah, of course.
I grew
Oh
up in a
God,
world. If
yeah.
you went into a store and you would say how much was it, and they told you, and you'd buy it. So I worked in this store and I learned business
Oh
about
yeah.
this, that you could, and they would negotiate, and they would have this. Then these were German Jews, and they would play all these little games. They had this one. I remember this one time they would do this thing where they would show somebody, like let's say the store paid $100 wholesale for it, and it was sold for $200 retail, and I had the guy down to 175, but they wanted to make him think that they'd play this little game where the boss would come out and go, "What are you doing? You can't sell it to him for 175. We pay 180 for it. What the fuck are you doing? You're a moron." And then they look at the customer and go, "I'm sorry, this guy's an idiot. He's a fucking moron. I'm going to fire him probably this afternoon. But since he told you that price, then I'll honor it. But you talk to me when you get done with this, all right? You stupid fuck." And he's going to make, so now the buyer would forget trying to get it any cheaper. He thought,
Right.
"Oh, they're already losing $5," when really we only paid $100 for it. And so we do these little things like this. I go back to him. I go, "Do you have to yell at me and call me a stupid fuck?" He goes, "Don't take it personally." He said, "It's just a thing. We got a thing. We made $80 on this lens. Don't whistle." But so I learned a lot about business that you can negotiate with this stuff. So I sold video. Okay, I'm getting away from your story. So I had videotape equipment. And I heard that they were having this Fernwood Tonight, and they were looking for characters that were in a little town. So I had the luxury of taking this equipment home in my apartment and making a videotape of several characters instead of just going in and going, "Thank you very much. We'll call you. Don't call us." So I made a tape. I did it like a dog catcher. I did a mayor. I did something else, and then I did this Tony Roletti, which was based. I worked at an Italian restaurant once as a busboy, and there was a guy there who played the organ. This is in Florida. Played the organ with a big brandy sniffer, and they tie yellow ribbon around the. Hey, how you doing? And he was just going. And we'd have to watch him after, late at night after everybody left, and I have to sit and watch this guy. And he had a powder blue tuxedo, and so that was kind of based on this character. And I called him Roletti because I figured he gives you agita, and so you take Rolaids, and that was my thinking. So I call him Tony Roletti, and I made this tape of about 5 characters, and I took it over to Norman Lear's place, and I left it off, and about a week goes by, and I get this call from Alan Thicke, who had been hired to replace whatever son of a bitch they fired to do this show. And Alan didn't know, I didn't know him at the time. And he said, "Hey, I was watching this tape." He said they left in my office. And I was like the only one that did this. And he said, "Dude, I like that Tony Roletti character guy." He said, "Can you come in?" So I went in and we talked, and he said, "Okay." He said, "You're hired." I go, "Okay." So I went out and bought a bad toupee and a cheap powder blue tuxedo, and then I went in. I got a script that night and I studied it. Here's a great story. So I study this script, and I, like an actor, I learn all my lines. I go in, I sit down, we rehearse it. We kind of like a loose rehearsal with Martin and Fred Willard, who were both geniuses. And I kind of worked and I didn't know what I was doing. So, okay, lunchtime, we'll come back after lunch and we'll shoot the show. I go, okay. So I get up and this girl comes over. She says, let me see your script. So she takes my script. She starts tearing pages out of it and making X's and putting new pages in it and doing it. And she goes, there. And I go, what did you do? She goes, oh, those are rewrites. I go, I said, what rewrites? I said, I just spent all night learning my life. So I didn't go to lunch. I went back in my dressing room. I did as good as I could to get this together. And I did all I could. They came back from lunch. We go to tape. I get in my costume, I get the makeup. I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't think I've got this down. So we go out there. They rattle on the tape and I go out there, I sing my song, I'm off tune, I'm off key, I'm on a thing, I screw up, I go over and sit down. Then those two start saying stuff that wasn't in the script. And I start saying stuff that was kind of in the script. And then they start saying other things and I doing this. And then we went to commercial and I thought, oh, that was horrible. And then I see Alan Thicke come out from behind the cameras. His head pops around and he's looking at me. I could tell he was looking at me, not them. He's looking at me and he comes out from behind the cameras and there's about 30 feet between the cameras and where my face was. And he comes walking at me and I can tell he's coming at me, not at them. And he's walking right directly at me. And I remember thinking, I told this story at the SAG reunion, about 500 people years ago at the Screen Actors Guild. And I said, I remember thinking to myself, he's going to hit me. I thought, he's mad. I really fucked up. That was horrible. He's going to hit me. And he went right up to my face and go, that was great. Keep it up. It was fabulous. And then he went back and I thought, wait a minute. Is he watching the same show I was? Because I mean, it was through all ignorance on my part. But they loved it. And I think I did about 6 or 8 Fernwood Tonights. And I don't know how many America Tonights, but it was all through Total. And then my singing, and I'm not a singer. I can sing, but I'm not a singer. But I have had big musicians come, Bob Seger, Alice Cooper, that I've met. I was like, going, you're Tony Rolletti? Oh, I love Tony Rolletti. He said, and then and again, I don't know anything about music. They would say, oh, you were great. And then they would explain to me what I did vocally, where I would jump from one note in one octave to the note above that note in the other octave.
So it was,
and I said, and yeah. It said you would jump from like the F in one up to the F in the other octave above and I go, it wasn't
don't tell me what I'm doing right.
It wasn't there was no effort on my part, but they would get a kick out of it because I guess it was like musical comedy to them. So it was fun. It was a fun character. I still had people watching it, and that was a long time ago. That was 77, 78. But but it's a shame. I might take this time to make note that it was before Andy Kaufman did Tony Clifton, and also before Bill Murray did his thing on Saturday Night Live. So
you were
no discredit to them. They're actually very good characters. Andy Kaufman did that Tony Clifton guy, and he was very unlikable. He was a real asshole. My guy was more nice, and Bill Murray had his thing, and I love Bill Murray. He was fun, but I really was the original blue powder, bad toupee nightclub singer.
Another guest on the show was talking about Andy Kaufman a couple of weeks ago and saying he was actually the sweetest, nicest person when he wasn't doing anything. Did you know? You were being
I met him a couple times. He was very shy. He liked to brush his teeth a lot. He was. I did a special with him for George Slaughter. I forget, it was some actress. I forget what her name was. It was the girl that played Tabitha. And some come and go actresses no longer around. I forget. But
meanwhile, and now she's going to say really terrible.
You know what he really was? I consider him really not to be so much a comedian as a performance artist.
Yeah, which allows you not to be that funny. Because that was the thing about it. A lot of the time, I was like, okay, I get he's important.
He dealt with people's emotions, whatever that may be. Could be, if there's an equivalent to a comedian making people laugh, if there's an equivalent to making people pissed off,
I do that. That's
that
me.
he would do.
That's my specialty. Let me tell
But
you.
he got emotions out of people, be they good or bad or happy or sad. And he played with people a lot, and he was really a performance artist in my mind.
By the way, do you watch any comedians now? I mean, if you have Netflix or these different?
Yeah.
So, anybody you really like, or is there a glut and you're just like, oh, here's another one, here's another one, here's another?
I watch. I don't watch a lot of comedy because I don't like to be influenced. I love Brian Regan. I think Brian Regan is very, very funny. He's just I laugh at him. I watch a lot of stand-up comedy, and I don't want to sound like an old crotchety old guy, but I just don't get a lot of the news. They don't have, it's like nobody wants to take the time to write a joke anymore. And not that everything has to be jokes, but I think a lot of young comedians now, they see people like Jim Gaffigan up there telling their little stories. Yeah, I love Jim Gaffigan too, but he's like Perry Como. He makes it look easy when really it's hard. Yeah. It's written, it's rehearsed, it's honed, and it's a work of wordy art. Whereas a lot of these people say, well, I'll just get up and talk about how I went to the store. The checkout lady, she had a stupid hat on. And I said, hey, that's a stupid hat. Okay, that's not a joke. That's not a joke.
I love the hat thing.
It's just not. There's more, and not everything has to be. We were talking about this in a Facebook group when I asked. It's called the Maxwell Method. It's on Facebook. It's run by Dobie Maxwell. A lot of comedians, like 3,000 comedians, are on it. And I asked the question the other day. I said, define the word joke.
Yeah.
Well, that's a simple question, you'd think, but it's really a hard, because people say, well, it's a string of words that make people laugh. I said, oh, really? Well, what happens when you hit somebody in the face with a pie? There's no words involved there. Is that a joke? If I make a face like you laugh, is that a joke?
Or what's worse is, well, not worse, but it gets complicated. Like if you've heard the joke before, and he doesn't make you laugh, but it's a joke still. It's intended to create laughter, but is it just verbal? Is it physical? Is it
right? But is it a typical setup punchline? Is that's a joke, but is a funny story like Jim Gaffigan, who tells stories. I hate it when people try to tell stories and they're not good storytellers, because you got to be a good storyteller. I think you remember one of the great joke tellers of all time, Myron Cohen.
Oh my God, Myron Cohen!
The man stood there, did the same voice, but it was hilarious, and just the jokes and the timing. And comedy is about cutting out the fat, just getting it down to what you need to make it, get rid of all that fat. And Myron was great. Dangerfield was fabulous. But again, those are just jokes, jokes, and those are styles. But comedy is very subjective. It's very, I find it, to me, it's almost like a calling. I'm not particularly religious, but if I would say that I had a calling in life, I was a gift of being able to make people laugh, and almost as importantly, being able to realize and understand that gift and to do something with it. Wow.
I am so glad that you have done so much with it just in the time so far that you have been with us on this program.
Well, thank you, Rabbi.
Let a new guest into the neighborhood, because you're going to play a trivia quiz against the guest. But unfortunately, I have to go. I've been leaving my congregation waiting for me for an hour.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, they're clawing each other to death as we're speaking. So I've got to go. First of all, let me, Rabbi Sol Solomon, thank you so much. And just how delightful.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate it.
There's so many more stories I know that you can tell, but you may tell one or two more when Dave comes back to this program. Dave's Gone By, live on Shabbos morning. It is March 13th, 2021. Time for the Today Yesterday quiz. Let me get my outro music ready, because I have my whole staff helping me here on the iTunes. Oh, thank you, staff. We'll play a little bit of music, and then Dave and Bill Kirkenbauer still with us, and the game. Oh, here we go.
I love that klezmer. I love klezmer music.
Rabbi Sol Solomon once dated a klezmer musician, but she became a lesbian. So there you go.
It's very close to Cajun.
Yeah.
As a kind of a Cajun, yeah.
Minus the shrimp, as we're saying, because you won't have the shrimp boil. By the way, we're with Bill Kirkenbauer, who is going to be. I'm Dave Lefkowitz, by the way, the host of the program. Thank you so much,
all right, David.
Rabbi Sol Solomon, who is with us talking.
Nice guy.
Yeah, you all know him like I do. But we also have with us Fred Cleaver and his wonderful wife, Wendy Highby, and they will be playing. Here's Wendy. Hey, Wendy. Hi, Fred. How are you doing? Say hello to Bill Kirkenbauer.
Hey, Bill.
Hey. Hello, folks. How you doing?
It can be very hard. Their microphone.
I was a big fan of Friday tonight, so it's delightful.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Here, there you go. Kind of. There's a little Tony Roletti for you. I'm having a little hard time understanding her. It's breaking up.
Yeah.
He's asking about Lily Tomlin doing Tommy Velour.
Oh, Lily? What about her?
Lily Tomlin doing Tommy Velour. That character might have been.
Oh, yes. That's right. I forgot about that. Yes. Tommy Velour. That's right. I don't know.
Well, let me just tell folks, we've also been sort of waiting for our other contestant. David Short won't be able to join us for the Today Yesterday quiz because he's here's my phone. He's with his mommy who got the vaccination, so he's hanging with her to make sure she doesn't get some horrible bloaty reaction kind of a thing. But right. Leslie is probably just having her usual can't log on.
She said too late for today, and she put question marks. So
you're just telling no, join. Okay. Yeah. So we're hopefully joined by our regular contestant Leslie Hoban Blake, who is a theater critic and former theatrical director. Fred Cleaver has written about science fiction and written some science fiction. His wife Wendy is a librarian and also an author, a scholarly author. How are you guys doing? Is it crazy out there? Are you getting 8 feet of snow in northern Colorado right now?
Not yet.
Oh, just a little
bit of rain.
A little bit of rain. Because it was amazing. We were talking about this in the beginning of the program that even as late as yesterday, the forecasters were like, well, you might get 4 inches of snow or you might get 4 feet of snow. It's like, you don't know. Is your Doppler not working? What are they expecting?
It might be worse than the foothills. Boulder might get a couple things.
Boulder might, well, yeah.
Foothills get a bit harder.
Well, it looks like we are actually going to have our third person. Oh, she's joining.
I just texted.
Yeah, no, she just tried to get on. I just admitted her, but will she make it? And this is the only tension this program ever has. Everything else is just pure boredom. Ladies and gentlemen, waiting for Leslie. We might have lost her though. She's trying. Tell her to try again.
It's Bill Gates' fault.
Oh, I know, right?
She has trouble with the phone.
She every week pretty much. It's either she can't log on. I think she's using her toaster essentially to try and that.
You think they have broadband in Manhattan?
Yeah, she's in the middle of New York City. She's in Manhattan. You guys are all the way in Colorado in the middle of what's going to be the blizzard of 2021. Bill, I don't know if you guys know this, Bill is literally right now in Cambodia. You are looking at somebody in Phnom Penh as we speak.
93 degrees with a chance of coconuts.
Oh. And I'm writing with my Phnom Penh right now, so here we go. I don't know. Since Leslie already knows the rules of the Today Yesterday History quiz, let me clue everybody in on what they are, so if she tries and still can join us last minute, we can get through those. So the rules are pretty simple and quick. You guys know them already, but Bill hasn't played the game yet, so welcome, Bill. Here's the deal. There are 9 questions plus a tiebreaker if we need it, but we do the tiebreaker anyway, just for funsies. And there's no prizes, by the way. You get absolutely nothing, Bill. You just bragging rights. Did you get paid?
Are you sure the rabbi isn't running this show?
Wait, let me tell you. Rabbi, nothing. nothing. Don't give me. They have to pay to be on the program. Yeah, that's right. Normally, we make contestants pay to.
Oh,
be
I see. I
So
see.
you guys get to go on the show free. That's rare. That's rare.
Okay, I'm honored.
Anywho, each question is worth 2 points, and
Okay.
if you there's no penalty if you get it wrong. However,
Okay.
if you get it wrong, the other team can get, or it's Wendy and Fred are playing as one person. They're a couple, but they're together.
Okay.
And if they get it right, they steal the points. They get the 2 points. Okay. So that's really the whole thing. We do 9 questions. We roll.
Is there a subject matter or just anything?
Trivia history,
Let's
but
have
Okay.
what happened today.
yeah. And the context is, the idea is, today is March 13th, 2021. All of these things happened in history on March 13th.
Oh, okay.
10 years, 100 years, 500 years ago, it is a March 13th thing. So I'm not gonna, with all due respect to,
And I said, we saw you, but you left. Please try again.
yeah, Leslie might try again. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go roll the die. And Bill, thank you for being so patient in our starting this up. Bill, first
Also
before.
tell them that most guests score 0.
My wife is telling and reminding me that, Bill, if you get no points at all, there's nothing to be embarrassed. I mean, a lot of times we get the guests on here and they get 0 or 2 points or 4. It's all in fun. Some of the questions are like, oh, I don't know, just pick. Don't in any way.
Is it multiple choice or
Some of them
just
are
you gotta have the
multiple
answer?
choice, some of them are
All
direct trivia.
All right.
You can always say Lin-Manuel.
I'm pretty
And
good
some
on
of
this
them
stuff.
involve bloodletting a little bit, and some of them involve Lin-Manuel Noriega. I don't know why, but they just.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, Bill, if you would kindly pick a number between 1 and 6.
Okay, a 4.
Bill does a 4, and Wendy and Fred, can you please pick a number between 1 and 6?
Well, we're about to negotiate a refund before we pick a number if we lose, right? Never
Yeah,
mind.
he's done. Yeah, you pick a number, Wendy.
Okay, 6.
6. I heard that. Okay. So, Wendy and Fred have a 6. What I'm going to do is digitally. I have a website here called rolladie.net. So I'm not cheating or anything like that. We're going to roll a die, and then this is absolutely perfect. Fingers crossed. Leslie looks like she's trying to join. She's
I asked her to join again. Yeah.
she's scaling the mountain. Is she?
Go, Leslie. It's your birthday. Go,
And
Education has to be.
And- we're just going to be here until 3:00 in the
Leslie.
afternoon,
It's the
amazing.
Wi-Fi. Her Wi-Fi.
Yeah, she's got, because they haven't figured out, internet in Manhattan.
I want to try it upside down.
Oh, wait.
Oh, I see something. I see something.
Leslie, have you? Yes, I see a head. I see a hat. I see the rest of you. Looking good, Leslie.
Sorry. Good morning. I'm so sorry. This is it.
Leslie, have you been with us? You have Payas. What's up with that?
It just don't even go there. Just good morning. How are you?
Let me make introductions real quick. Leslie, our guest in the neighborhood today is Bill Kirkenbauer. He is, you may remember him from America Tonight and Fernwood Tonight, a stand-up comedian. Just the 10 of us on TV, and Carson and Letterman and Merv and all those people. So hi. This is Leslie Hoban Blake. Leslie is a theater critic, theater director. She hosts or co-hosts the weekly video or bi-weekly video cast Critics Circle that you can watch on YouTube, where they interview people of the theater and review, at the moment, virtual shows. And she is a fierce competitor. She's the one to beat, even
All
though
right,
Fred.
but you've already started the game, I assume.
Well, Leslie, your
No.
thing is perfect. Pick a number from 1 to 6.
Wow. 2.
2. All right, Leslie with 2. I'm going to roll a die now on our digital die rolling platform thing. It goes.
You're so eloquent.
I know, the digital die rolling platform thing. Look at this, beginner's luck. Bill, the die actually came up number 4. This means that you get to choose, would you rather go first, second, or third?
I'll go first.
Bill will go first. Okay, I'm going to roll the die one more time. I roll. And that came up a 1, which is closer to Leslie's number. She picked 2. So Leslie, would you rather go second or third? Should we rather go second? And so Wendy and Fred, you bring up the rear, and but not in public. So here we go. You will be taking the third slot as we begin our today, yesterday quiz of questions. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Bill's been ready like 6.5 hours ago, but we begin. Here we go.
I got my Cambodian water here. That'll help.
Is it?
Oh,
He's in
great.
Leslie. He's in Cambodia right now for reals.
Are you serious?
No,
No.
we're not Sirius XM. This is just Facebook. But yes. All right. Here. Bill-
Just I know we're supposed to start the game, but why are you in Cambodia? Or is that a long story?
Oh, a long story.
Long story that he told about an hour ago, Leslie.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
All righty. Bill,
I'll watch it tomorrow. I'll watch it tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll find out
It's
then.
pretty interesting.
it's a great story. He had a wonderful conversation with Rabbi Sol Solomon, and we're very thrilled to have him. And Bill, I am thrilled to give you the first question in our quiz. Here we go. The year was 1781. Musician and astronomer William Herschel, was looking through a telescope when he thought he saw a comet in the sky. Instead, he discovered an ice giant. 8 years later, they officially named it what?
An ice giant. Well, that would have to be Jupiter.
Whoa. Is that, and I'll do the NPR kind of thing.
Very confident, right?
Is that your final answer?
Yes, it is.
By Jupiter, Bill, that was not the right answer. I'm very, very sorry. So we're going to roll the die. Yes, I told Garvey.
Gee, you had me going there. I thought I was smart.
You are smart. That was a very good guess, but not the right guess. I'm going to roll the die again. We come up with a number 3, which is closest to Leslie. So Leslie, I can read the question again, but would you have the opportunity to steal?
No, I know what the answer is, but I hate to say it. I never say it right. That's the problem.
Oh,
Well, you'll say it right
now we know what it is.
Yes, of course, that's the one. Only because I know the ice giant thing. I'll go for the Uranus. I'll go for the least offensive.
Oh, Leslie, really? Really? Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to check Wikipedia on this and look up Uranus, but yes, you are absolutely correct. That is the answer. Look up Uranus. Leslie Hoban Blake.
I got it, Charlie. I got it. I got it, David.
Yes. Do you know why it's called Uranus?
It's one of the gods of Greek, whatever, or
it was
Greek.
Uranus, or the Greek god of the sky.
I could have said Uranus. I didn't say it right. See,
and also they particularly picked that one because this is really, I'm not joking. Very recently they had discovered uranium, and so even though it wasn't connected, they Uranus, let's do that one because uranium was a big topic in the news when this was done.
They discovered uranium back in 17, whatever you said.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Maybe. Hey, that can't.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Doesn't make sense at all. Okay, forget I said that.
Fake news.
I'm a terrible host.
I didn't know
because you could do this.
I never question you. I never question you, David, but that really doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it
to
doesn't
me.
look.
Alex Trebek had a team.
Or maybe that's when they make it a planet.
Alex Trebek has a team of writers, honey.
Yeah, Trebek had writers. I've got me and Rabbi Sol. Scary. Anyway, Leslie on the board. Next question though goes to Leslie, so you can actually build on your lead.
Wow.
Here we go. The year was 1852. Making its debut in a satirical cartoon in the New York Lantern newspaper was this figure. Oh, Leslie's already nodding, man. Who had been...
No. I'm not nodding. I'm listening.
Okay.
I have the ear things in. It sounds different. I'm just nodding.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'll start. I'm sorry.
Leslie's a responsive audience member.
Yeah, you're like you're what every comedian wants. It's like yes, feed me.
Right.
Making it. This is 1852. Making its debut in a satirical cartoon in the New York Lantern newspaper was this figure who had been preceded by the characters Columbia and Brother Jonathan. Name that drawing.
I would say Uncle Sam. That's the only thing that comes to mind. It's just logical that it would be Uncle Sam. Thank you, Bill. It's just logical that it would be Uncle Sam.
And is that going to be your final answer?
Yeah, I can't think of it. I mean, we are talking about America, right? We are talking about America.
Well, making its debut in a satirical cartoon in the New York Lantern.
Yes, okay, yes. Then I would say Uncle Sam, yes.
Uncle Shmuel it is. Well done, Leslie Blake. That is the correct answer. You're on the board now with 4 points, running away with the game almost. Well,
I should always come late. There's
a joke.
no, wait, I'm sorry.
No.
Bill, I walk into these things all the time.
You
It's just
do,
I can't
you
do
do.
anything about it, you know.
Guy walks into a bar and you get 4 stitches. Anyway. Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Bill's just sitting there like, all right. 18. This next question goes directly to Wendy and Fred to conclude our first round. The year 1868. Impeachment proceedings begin today against Andrew Johnson. Which of these is not true? There's multiple choice. Which is not true about the 17th president of the United States? A, like Lincoln, he was born in a log cabin. B, to relieve stress, he would befriend and feed stray cats. C, when he gave a speech at Lincoln's inauguration, he was noticeably tipsy. Or D, trick question, all of the above are true. I can read them again. I'll.
I would say all of them. Yeah. Okay, we'll say D.
You'll say D, that these are absolutely all true.
They're all true.
Well, the truth is, that's not true. I'm afraid that is not the correct answer, guys. Oh, so now we get the steal possibility. Let me roll that digital die. We come up with boxcar, well, single boxcar. So that's closest to Wendy, but they've already answered. So Bill, with your number 4, you are closest to our roll. So Bill, I'll read the question again, and then you've got the multiple choice on it. 1868 was the year that impeachment proceedings began against Andrew Johnson. Which of these is not true about the 17th president of the United States? A, like Lincoln, he was born in a log cabin. B, to relieve stress, he would befriend and feed stray cats. Or C, when he gave a speech at Lincoln's inauguration, he was noticeably tipsy.
I have a feeling, didn't know the man myself, but I would say A.
You're saying A, that he was not born in a log cabin.
Right.
Well, I hate to get all syrupy on you, but log cabin is not the right answer. Get log cabin syrup. No,
I thought everybody was born in a log cabin at that point.
Yeah,
I thought the whole world was born in a log cabin back then.
I put log cabin on my pancakes.
And there you go. There you go. Let's see.
Wasn't Richard Nixon born in a log cabin?
Was he really? Well, I don't know. Anywho, would be one thing he didn't lie about. Let's see. Leslie, you get to steal if you can steal.
Oh my goodness, I have no idea.
You can really,
I would think, given what we know about Johnson, I would think that he would skin cats rather than feed them. But I'm sure he was noticeably tipsy. I'm sure that was one of his many. Oh, I'll say he fed cats just because it seems not the right answer. So I think it's probably the right answer.
So you're going to say that
it's counterintuitive. Yes, it's counterintuitive of me. Go ahead. He fed cats to dogs is what he did.
Well, Leslie, that is a meowvelous answer. I know I was stretching there. Believe it or not, that was, yeah.
He did?
It was incorrect. Here's the deal. Andrew Johnson, in the White House, there was a family of white mice that were running around the White House, and he loved them. He would feed them. He would take care of these mice. So he wasn't a cat guy. He was a mouse guy, which is this absolutely true story. And by the way, the drunk thing was, as far as the inauguration, that was true, because he was getting over typhoid, so he drank a bunch of whiskey just before.
That's what they said. I know. Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, he was.
I always say
story
that. If I
was-
get caught being drunk, I say I'm getting over typhoid. It's
Oh
the
yeah,
easiest
I'm
answer.
getting over Corona, or
Right,
I'm
it's the
Corona
easiest
walking.
answer.
Drinking a Corona.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anywho, it just occurred to me. I was just thinking because I got my shot a couple of days ago at Aqueduct Racetrack in New York, and
Oh.
wouldn't it make sense that Corona means crown, and is Aqueduct one of the jewels in the Triple Crown, or is that
Yes, it
Belmont?
is. Oh no, it's Belmont. It's
Belmont.
Belmont. It's Belmont.
I was
It's
so close to
Belmont.
having a good comedy there,
Good
but
lie.
I was married to a guy who turned out to be a gambler, but being a nice girl raised in New York, I knew nothing about any of this kind of stuff. So it took me a long time to figure it out. But I spent part of my pregnancy at Aqueduct.
wow.
I did. Well, if it was either that or stay home by myself, so I would go with him to Aqueduct.
Did you lose all the
Lost. He lost everything. Our baby slept in a borrowed carriage because we couldn't afford a crib. It was terrible. It was an awful life. I left him.
Well, good for you. Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh wow! Wow! So many things I learned about our
Oh
parents.
yes.
Yes,
Oh
on the
yes.
show. Huh.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, well, you. I don't know. There's no pun to make about this. There's no gambling.
No, it's not.
You
It
are
was
leading
really. It was one of the. I'm sorry. It was a trigger. You
I
gave
get
me
it.
the word aqueduct, and that all came rolling out. It's
Yeah, and not to mention I rolled the dice, 10 times
Yes.
during this game. But it's 6-0, Leslie, after the beginning of the first round. So whenever you got,
the thing is, David Sheward's not here, and he's not going to believe it. So what good does it do me, right?
It's recorded. It's
The
recorded.
private joke, Bill. That's our normal, our regular, usual regular.
nobody on this program is normal, but usual would be the proper thing. So let's begin round 2, where you guys get a chance to try and carve a little notch into Leslie's lead. Bill, this question is directly. I don't. Yeah, that was badly done. Bill, this is for you. 1877 was the year. Big
I
day
remember.
for inventor Chester Greenwood of Farmington, Maine. He gets to patent this wintry invention that he first devised when he was 15 years old. What was it? Is a multiple choice. Okay. Was it A, earmuffs, B, galoshes, C, rubber hot water bottles, or D, a hand-cranked snowblower? I'll read the question again.
All right.
1877, Chester Greenwood of Farmington, Maine, patented on this date, March 13th, this wintry invention that he first devised when he was 15 years old. What was it? Was it A, earmuffs, B, galoshes, C, rubber hot water bottles, or D, hand-cranked snowblower?
Well, I'm going to say the earmuffs. I think they probably must have thought of that years before that. That's not a complicated thing to come up with. Let's put something over my ears. Now they're not cold. Okay, so that's a little too simple, I think, for them. Let's see, and the other one, galoshes. No, that would involve rubber, and I don't think they had any kind of rubber.
That's why they
Quite
have
up
so many
to
children.
them.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the hot water bottle also would involve some sort of rubber, which I don't think was available then. So I'm going to go with a hand. In fact, when you were saying this, I was thinking snow shovel. But so when you said that, I said a hand crank. Oh, I'm going to go with the hand cranked snowblower. I'm sure it wasn't all that great, but yes, that's my final question. Answer.
Well, after a flurry of thought about all that, I have to say, Bill, I'm sorry, that is not the correct answer. No.
All right, well, then I invented the hand cranked snowblower.
Well, every man that's when they're 11 years old invents the hand crank. But let's roll the die. Let's see.
All right.
We come up with, and just as I did this morning, I came up with a number 2, which means that Leslie Blake. Fred and Wendy, they just shake their heads. They're like, I can't.
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
18
Give it to Fred and Wendy. I'm not. I don't know the answer.
Well, I'll give you the choices again. It was.
What? Give me the year. No, tell me the year again. I remember the choices. What's
1877.
I believe they had rubber at that point because they had hot water bottles in the White House. They used hot bricks at first. But by then, I think they had hot water bottles. I do think that. I'm almost positive. My grandmother had a friggin' hot water bottle, and that wasn't that much later than that.
Really?
I'm going to say hot water bottle. Yeah, I'm going to say hot water bottle. Because the idea is to take a patent on something is so that nobody else can make it, or they have to pay you when they do make it, right?
So you're going with that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to get you in some hot water, Leslie Hoban Blake, but that is not the correct answer.
Okay.
Right, not. So it's time for Wendy and Fred. You get a chance to steal this question. Chester Greenwood of Farmington, Maine, patented this invention on this date, 1877. Was it earmuffs or galoshes?
Go ahead.
We'll say earmuffs.
Is that your final answer?
Yep, sure.
Do you hear what I hear? Earmuffs. Yes, indeed, it is the earmuffs. Well done.
Hey.
Good sport, Bill. What happened was the kid, when he was 15, reportedly came up with the idea when he was ice skating, and he asked his grandmother to sew tufts of fur between loops of wire. And he kept working on it and doing it, and he came up with, a couple of years later, came up with a patent on it. So earmuffs. Well done, Wendy and Fred.
I would like to send a note to his descendants because I can't live in the winter without earmuffs. I've been an earmuff girl ever since I can remember. So
A woman without her muff. I mean, come on. It's just what?
You've never been to Brazil, I take it.
I can wax poetical about it, but anywho, get it? We get it. We know it. It's a 6-2 game. Leslie with 6 points, Wendy with 2, but Bill's not out of it yet. We do. All right. Well,
I hope this doesn't affect my credit.
Yeah, so I mean, Cambodia.
They're going to come to Cambodia and get your credit, is what they're going to do.
Credit doesn't mean anything over here.
Oh,
how much is it to the dollar there? What is like $1 or $10?
Well, they use the dollar here.
Oh, yeah.
They use their real,
Yeah.
but then they take dollars. They love regular dollars, so you don't have to always figure out the exchange rate. If you got $1, it's $1.
But what do the locals use? I mean, because when I was in
a real, it's called a real, RHIEL. And there's 4,000 of them to $1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
just one last question: is it warm or cold there right now?
Oh, it's warm. It's very warm. Starting of the they don't have like winter or summer thing. They have either monsoon, hot or dry.
What a country. what a great place to be.
Oh, it's like another world, believe me.
Yeah, it's a third world to say. It's like, oh yeah, is it hot? Is it this hot or is it that hot? Oh, it's that hot. Yeah, that's our winter. Anywho, who gets next? Oh, Leslie. Oh, really? 1, 2. It's our 5th question. 1, 2, 3, 4. Leslie, you get the next question directly, so you can really. You can build on your 6-point lead here. The year 1915. To promote the great game of baseball during spring training in Florida, Wilbert Russell, manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, agreed to a stunt. He would catch a baseball dropped from a low-flying airplane.
Oh, God.
The gimmick did not quite go as planned because...
You think?
This is, by the way, this is absolutely true. This really, what happened? 1915. Was it? It's a multiple choice. A. Russell lost the ball in the sun, fell and broke his front tooth.
Oh,
B. The guy in the plane throwing the baseball fell out of the plane and broke his front tooth. C. The plane got lost on the way to the ball field and landed 2 towns over. Or D. At the last minute, the players substituted the baseball with a grapefruit.
oh.
So, multiple choice.
Wouldn't there be something? I'm not good at scientific things, but the velocity of a baseball would kill you if it fell from a plane, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't. You couldn't catch it. Period. So.
Well, in the question is a
In theory.
low flying airplane. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll read again. 1915, to promote baseball during spring.
So the propeller would cut his head off. That would be what would happen. Some horrible
I wasn't
thing
going to
would
put that in
happen.
there, but yeah, the manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers agreed to this stunt. He would catch a baseball dropped from a low flying plane. However, the gimmick did not go as planned because A, Russell lost the ball in the sun, fell and broke his front tooth. B, the guy in the plane throwing the baseball fell out of the plane and broke his front tooth. C, the plane got lost on the way to the ball field and landed 2 towns over. Or D, at the last minute, the players substituted the baseball with a grapefruit.
Which one is true?
Yeah, one of these is true.
Well, they wouldn't bother writing about it if the plane just went to the next town, 2 towns over. That's kind of not exciting news. That would go on the back page of something or other, which is the name of the local newspaper, I think. Why would he substitute a grapefruit? I don't understand that. I have no idea. I have no. When do you want to take this? I have no idea.
There's a multiple choice. You have a 25%.
I know of being stupid at 25% no matter what I do. I know. The guy fell over and chipped his tooth.
Which one?
Which tooth?
Which guy? Because wasn't the
well, no, one fell out and one fell over. You said one fell out of the plane and one fell over. So I'm talking about the guy on the ground fell over.
On the ground, the guy lost the ball in the sun and broke his tooth.
This is what's true. So I'm thinking that's what's true.
Well, the truth is, Leslie Hoban Blake, that is not the correct answer. So I'm afraid. No, it's a no on that one. Let's roll the die and see who gets to try and steal. The die comes up with a number 1, which is closest to Leslie and second closest to Bill. So, Bill, you get a chance to steal this question. Do you need me to read the things again, or are you good?
Sure, why not?
What happened when this low-flying plane for this stunt, what happened on that day? Was it the guy in the plane, this is letter B, the guy in the plane throwing the baseball fell out of the plane and broke his tooth?
Mm-hmm.
The plane got lost on the way to the ball field and landed 2 towns over? Or D, at the last minute, the players substituted the baseball with a grapefruit?
Well, I went to high school for 3 years in St. Petersburg, Florida, where they have all these baseball rehearsal places. And I've been to them, and sometimes these are new people and they're a little goofy. I'm going to say, and grapefruit are popular down there in Florida, by the way. So I'm going to say that they replaced it with a grapefruit because they figured out, hey, somebody could get killed here.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, and I'm going to be, yes.
Well, Bill.
Yeah.
In a biblical sense, you were fruitful and your score is multiplied because, yes, indeed, that is the correct answer. Well done. You are on the 2 points. What happened?
I know how they think down there.
Well, here's the deal. What happened was the grapefruit hit Russell in the chest and exploded. He started screaming because he thought it went into his chest and he was dying. And his pulp was going everywhere. He thought it was his guts.
I see.
True story. I find that really funny. All right, well, but anywho, our last question of the second round, we have 3 rounds, will go directly to Wendy and Fred. They are also on the board, by the way. It's a 6-2 game. So Wendy and Fred, you can, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. 1933 was the year Joseph Goebbels becomes German.
What a great guy he was.
What a leader. Yeah.
When he'd get drunk, it was just amazing. He'd start dancing funny and talking about monkeys. He liked to talk about monkeys. Yeah, that's it.
And then he'd reach out and kill a Jew. It was his way of showing he was a good guy, right?
Yeah, it worked. Joe Goebbels, 1933. Became Germany's Minister of Information and Propaganda today, March 13th. Which of these is not true about Jolton Joe Goebbels? Was it, it's a multiple choice, A, he wrote a semi-autobiographical novel called Michael, B, he wrote his doctoral thesis on Goethe,
Oh,
C, his university thesis advisor was Jewish, or D, to preserve his diaries, he copied them to microfilm.
wow.
Who's that?
This is for Wendy and Fred. Wendy and
Oh,
Fred
okay.
us.
discussing this one.
I want to hear them again.
Okay, Wendy wants to hear them again.
Absolutely. So which of these is not true about Joseph Goebbels? A, he wrote a semi-autobiographical novel called Michael. B, he wrote his doctoral thesis on Goethe. C, his university thesis advisor was Jewish. Or D, to preserve his diaries, he copied them to microfilm.
I don't know. Is microfilm realistic?
Yes, that's plastic. Totally. Yeah, it was plastic. Do you think it's true?
I don't know. Which of those is not true?
Oh, this is the novel. You think about the novel?
Okay, do you know what you want to say? We'll say the novel.
And by the way, you can't really see Wendy on screen. She's not checking Google. Nobody cheats in this game. She's being, so
Yeah, she's looking at her personal library on Goebbels.
her memorabilia collection of the Nazi era. So what was
It's
your
under the swastika on the right. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah. What was the answer again? Which was I
We'll say the novel.
the novel. You're saying that is not true. He did not write a novel.
Didn't say that. We didn't say you didn't write a novel saying whatever you said the title was.
But he did not write
Goethe.
the novel.
But
Michael.
where the hell that is?
Yeah. Well,
So Michael, you said Michael.
I'm afraid that answer was as deadly as the novel Coronavirus because that is not true. He did actually write a novel called, a semi-autobiographical novel called Michael. So that is not the correct answer.
Okay.
I'm going to roll that die. We come up with the number 2, which tends to be, who is that? That's Leslie. Directly to Leslie. You get to steal. Do you want me to read the choices again?
No, let me just see if I remember them. Treatise on Goethe, microfilm, and Jewish professor. Are those basically
Yes, that is.
One of those is true. All professors at that time.
Which is not true.
Not true. Okay, all professors before 1933 were Jewish in all likelihood. So that would be true. I was worried about whether microfilm was around, but in 33 there was probably some sort of microfiche that was being invented at the time. Some early version of it must have been invented by then.
I hope so.
I'm thinking he was not all that bright, so I'm going to say he did not write a thesis on Goethe. Although I think everybody wrote their thesis on Goethe also. So, it could be any of them. We'll go for Goethe.
We're gonna go for Goethe. Well, on this particular question, Leslie, you came in Faust. Yes, that is the correct answer because he did write he did have a thesis advisor. In fact, he went to one person, asked him to be his thesis advisor. The guy was Jewish. He couldn't do it. He was retiring. He sent him to another guy who was Jewish and was his thesis advisor. But the thing was, Goebbels' thesis was actually on a very minor German playwright named Wilhelm von Schütz. So he did write a thesis, but it wasn't about Goethe. So there he is.
Wilhelm von Schütz. Why do you call him minor? He's not minor. Why? Always at the minor.
I think it's an umlaut over. Honestly, I think there's an umlaut over it. So I should have said Willem von Schütz, which would have been an even better name. And
better.
Made me much happier. But either way, Schütz or Schitz, Leslie, Hoban, Blake, I'm not shitting you. You got 8 points so far. Yay.
Right.
I always thought in the last couple of years that Bill Barr was our equivalent of Goebbels, even though he was not in the same position. I think I kept feeling that was what he did. I just ruined my screen here.
No, you're
Oh,
fine.
there we are.
Don't touch
Okay.
anything, Leslie. You're great.
No, I know.
All right, we begin round 3 of our Today, Yesterday trivia game here on Dave's Gone By. By the way, let me remind everybody, I'm Dave Lefkowitz. We're playing the game with Bill Kirchenbauer and with Leslie Hoban Blake and our friends Wendy Highby and Fred Cleaver. Excuse me, we call them Friendy because they're longtime friends of Joyce and myself. We are into the beginning of round 3. The round begins with Bill. Bill, you got some catching up to do, but maybe you can do it. 1963 was the year.
I was around.
I wasn't yet. One of Paul Hindemith's final operas, making its American. Yeah, there you go. You just have those Hindemith operas right in the front of you. Making its American debut tonight at Juilliard, was based on a one-act play from 1931. In it, an American family spans several generations over 90 years. For one point, name the opera, which shares the same name as the play, and for the other, the playwright, who also wrote the libretto. Usually we play with 2 scared critics.
Was that the plane with the baseball going over your head?
No, that's the.
There's a grapefruiting. Joe Goebbels wrote the entr'acte in the middle of it. Yeah, okay. No.
Could you ask that question in English now? I wasn't sure what that really.
Okay, 1963 was March 13th, 1963.
Mm-hmm.
One of Paul Hindemith's final operas made its American debut at Juilliard today. It was based on a one-act play from 1931. In it, an American family spans several generations over 90 years. For one point, name the opera, which is the same name as the play, and for the other, the playwright, who also wrote the libretto.
I don't know. I'll take one of my most. I'll say Our Town, even though I know that's not an opera. I don't know. I just said, okay. I have no idea. Well, let alone the guy named that did it.
Oh, all right. So that's your final.
I'm sorry. Lock me up.
Well, I'm afraid there's no room for you in Our Town either. That is not
the
I
guess not.
Answer.
No.
So we get to roll a die. And that number comes up as a number 5, which is closest to. Oh, it's right between the two of you guys. So I'm gonna roll that one again. It came up number 3, and that is closest to Bill and second closest to Leslie. So Leslie, you get to try and steal this question.
Well, I'm on the same wavelength as you were, Bill. I believe, though, it's The Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder, who also wrote Our Town. Oh, the only one I can think of where it's about a family that runs that whole length of time. And interestingly enough, if it is that, Tallulah Bankhead was in the original cast, if that's the play.
So what is your final?
The Skin of Our Teeth, Thornton Wilder.
Well, to tell the truth, Leslie, and I've already used that pun once today, you are half right. You get a point for that answer. But that does mean that Wendy and Fred can steal if you know the correct other part of the question. So
what part did she get right?
I guess I can say that she got the playwright right.
Oh, okay.
You didn't name him, but
if you named him, you would have been right, Bill.
Oh, okay.
But Wendy and Fred have to guess the name of the opera and the play.
I don't know. Say something.
We're coming up zeros. We don't know.
You're just gonna not take a guess. Lin-Manuel.
Was it the Pullman car thing about the trip to Thanksgiving or something? I don't know. I'm just. It doesn't matter. I'm not looking for a point. I'm just trying to figure it out. Go ahead.
Well, Wendy and Fred, do you want to say anything, or you're just going to pass?
Hamilton.
It was not Hamilton. It was certainly not Hamilton. But Leslie, you are so on it. That was the one. It was called The Long Christmas Dinner by Wilder. And the amazing thing was that Wilder wrote the play in 1931, and lived long enough to 1963, where he wrote the libretto for the Hindemith opera. So it was kind of cool. But Leslie, well done there. Leslie, you're
Very
just
nice.
9 points. 9 points, Leslie. I don't know if anybody can catch up, but we have a couple more questions. The next question in our round goes directly to Leslie Hoban Blake. Jeepers, here we go. 1975 was the year. Speaking of theatrical time lapses, opening tonight at the Brooks Atkinson Theater was this hit comedy drama about a couple who meet secretly, sporadically, but ritually for a quarter of a century.
Oh,
Okay.
For 1 point, name the play. For the second, the playwright.
You know, I don't know who wrote it. It's same time next year, but I don't remember who wrote it.
Well,
Same time next year is the name of the play, but I can't think of the name of the playwright unless it's the same guy who wrote Six Rooms River View, and I can't remember his name either, so it doesn't matter. But it's same time next year.
well, that's for 1 point. Do you want to try?
I give up the playwright. I really don't know.
Well, you certainly had the right time with that 1 point for your answer. That is the correct answer, Leslie. But Bill or Wendy and Fred will get to steal, and no fair for Googling or looking. Let's see what we got. We got a 4 come up on the. So Bill, you directly get the to steal this question. Leslie got it right. The name of the play was Same Time Next Year.
I remember the movie. I think it had Alan Alda in it, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
And Carol Burnett. Yeah.
Ah, that's right. Who wrote it? I don't know. I really don't. It almost no. I was gonna. It's almost like a Neil Simon type of a thing, but it wasn't
Yeah,
as
but it
funny as
wasn't,
Neil
right.
Simon stuff. Yeah. It's not Neil Simon, but I don't know. But I remember. I remember it.
You want to take a guess about anybody? Lin-Manuel Noriega?
Joseph Goebbels.
He wrote an early draft of this, but no, it was
Which
not.
he called Michael. Yes.
Yeah.
Wendy and Fred, do you want to chime in? Do you have any idea on this one?
What was the year?
It opened on Broadway, 1975, tonight. You know. You probably know the movie. You probably know the.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Lin-Manuel Noriega.
Oh, that is the correct answer. No, it's not, ladies and gentlemen. The answer is, well, let's just call a Slade a Slade. It was Bernard Slade. Was that name totally forgotten to folks?
Did he also write Six Rooms of Review?
I believe that he did.
Because I was in Six Rooms of Review. I was not. No. On the road. You know, not a. But I thought he might be the same playwright. Yeah.
But Leslie, I think wasn't it Alan Alda and Ellen Burstyn? I don't think it was Carol Burnett. I think it was Burstyn.
It was Carol Burnett in the movie.
I thought it was Burstyn in the movie. I could be completely wrong. I'd have to.
I think you're right, Burstyn.
And Burnett.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't have that memory. I'm sorry. It's just gone.
Okay. Well, either way, Leslie, you have 10 points. So this is amazing. This is incredible. Wendy and Fred, you can.
Well, it's, by the way, I didn't get to say this when I came on, but happy Pandiversary, everybody. Paniversary. Pandemic-versary. Pandiversary.
Oh, yeah.
You too. How many people here? I've got one shot. Leslie, you've got one or two? You've got
one.
One. Everybody's got one. Bill, you got, or you're going to get in a couple of weeks. You can't even.
Yeah, we really don't have COVID here, so it's not a big thing.
Oh, well, that's something.
Oh.
They've had one person die in the year.
And he was strangled because he made fun of COVID, so it wasn't even that.
No, he made fun of the prime minister.
I was going to say, do you have to whisper it when you say it? Do you have to whisper it when you say prime minister like that?
No, just don't run against him.
Okay. Or next to him, or with him, or
Yeah.
on the same block as him, right?
Yipes. All right.
Wow.
We have a question here that will go to Wendy and Fred directly. So this is the final round question before we get to the tiebreaker that everybody answers just for fun. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Here we go, Wendy and Fred. 1982, debuting tonight on ABC. The crime drama T.J. Hooker, starring Sir John Gielgud. No, just kidding. It was William Shatner. Which of these is not true about this iconic? Do you do a Shatner, by the way, Bill? Do you ever do a Shatner?
No, you had the beat down pretty
I-
good. The best William Shatner is Kevin Pollak.
Yes.
Kevin Pollak. Well,
Kevin Pollak.
I don't know. I think it's I don't.
Here we go. What is not true? Which is not true about this famous Canadian actor? A. One time he made a mistake playing the $20,000 pyramid and got so mad he threw a chair. B. When asked on Twitter whether he'd seen the sci-fi series The Orville, Shatner replied, quote, I love his popcorn. C. Popcorn. The facial mask for Michael Myers in the original Halloween was based on William Shatner's face. Or D. William Shatner's 2020 album, Country Boy at Heart, peaked at #1 on the Billboard country music charts. One of these is not true.
So all the rest of them are true. Oh, God.
These are true. Only one of these is not.
Does anybody get to chime in here? Or is it we taking?
Oh, Wendy and Fred, it's just their
Oh
question.
yeah. Okay.
But you're an expert on music. Okay. Face mask? Okay, we'll say the face mask question.
Yeah, that's not good.
For Michael Myers in Halloween,
Yes.
is the original Halloween was based on William Shatner's face. Is that your final answer?
Yes.
I'm afraid your chariot turns back into a pumpkin. That is not the correct answer. That the face was when they were making Halloween 2. They went looking for more of the masks. They were out of them. They went around all Hollywood looking for costume shops. And said, "Oh yeah, you want the Captain Kirk mask?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the one." So it really was based on that. Let's roll the die and see. We have the number 6, which is the closest to Wendy and Fred, second closest to Bill. So Bill, you get to try and steal this question. Do you want me to read the choice?
Sure, go ahead. Let me run this by. Isn't that funny? Nobody has a problem with him throwing this stuff on the game show, but that's okay. We'll go for that one.
The first choice is which of these is not true?
Yeah.
One time he made a mistake playing the $20,000 pyramid. He got so mad he threw a chair. B. When asked on Twitter whether he'd seen the sci-fi TV series The Orville, Shatner replied, quote, I love his popcorn. Or D. William Shatner's 2020 album Country Boy at Heart peaked at #1 on the Billboard country music charts.
I'd have to pick the country music song
You think that's not
album there.
true?
Yeah. I don't think he went to #1.
Well, thank God I'm not a country boy. Bill, you got that one. You actually got that one.
Great.
But the thing that makes this even more beautiful and more wonderful is that in 2020, William Shatner released an album called The Blues that peaked #1 on the Billboard Blues chart.
No, did
really?
it really?
That is absolutely true. Yes. And
I have an actual album. I have to show you what that
you
is.
have the Illustrated Man?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the one it is. Yeah.
That was that first one in the 60s when he was doing...
Yeah, it was either that or the second one in the 60s. I'd have to go look at the cover.
Yes.
But I was I watched The Orville. I love The Orville, which had nothing to do with William
That was
Shatner.
true. He tweeted, because they asked him, it was a Star Trek-based semi-parody, so they asked him about it, and he said, I love his popcorn, jokingly.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, even the chair throwing was kind of a thing. What happened was, it was the $20,000 pyramid, and he said... the word that he was supposed to do about, and he just picked up the chair and threw it out of the circle in the ring. It was just going but he was doing real anger, That's
the one game show I turned down. I used to do all the game password, all those game shows, and I got offered to do the $20,000 pyramid, and I tried playing it at home, and I thought, no, I'm going to look like an idiot on that show, kind of like here.
Except Bill. So far,
I haven't got Dick Clark to make fun of me.
Well, first of all, you came in second. So
Oh, did I? Oh,
Leslie collected 10 points. You collected 4. Wendy and Fred have 2. So you're doing very, very well for a guest. Now here's the
oh,
deal.
thank you.
Let's taking flight. We always do the last question anyway, even though it doesn't mean anything.
I
Okay,
don't
that's
have a
fine.
pen. I can't play. I don't have a pen. I can't find a pen. That's what I'm looking for.
You don't have to write it down.
Well, what we normally do is we have everybody hold up the thing because everybody answers at the same time.
Oh, I see.
So it's kind of a fair thing because everybody gets a shot at it at the same time.
I'm listening. I'm
Uh-huh.
just going to lean over and see if my pen is on the floor somewhere. Nope.
Here, Leslie, I'll loan you mine.
Thank you so much. Yes, if this were okay, got it. That
Good.
would be great.
Great.
Okay.
So what we did is just another typical trivia question, and I'll read the question twice and then give a count on 3, 2, 1, and on 1, everybody
Okay.
picks up the answer. You all
If I
like,
cover
right.
my eyes, can I say it when everybody else has it up if I know the answer?
why not? Yeah, are you guys okay with that?
I
I
don't
won't
care.
look. You put yours up and you let me say it, okay?
Is that
I
okay
promise.
with everybody? Okay.
I don't have a pen. I'd have
Well,
to
you
go
know
in
what,
the other
let's
room
just
to get
give
a pen.
it like a second. Just cover your eye. And when I say 1, give it a second,
Okay.
let them hold it, and then say it out loud. But close your eyes. Okay.
David, you guide me. When they have it up, you say, okay, Leslie, you can say it now.
Okay. So when they get it up,
I don't
I'll
have
let
any
them
idea.
know.
I'll just take my hands down.
Okay.
Well,
I don't even know what that means. All right. We're ready for the question?
I didn't hear it. So, all
Good.
right.
This is the year 1961. Tonight was the third and final match between Ingemar Johansson and this heavyweight boxer. Name him.
61.
Third and final match between Ingemar Johansson and this heavyweight boxer. Name him.
Do the Jeopardy.
Dum bum 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 rum bum 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 bum
All right.
bum 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 pum 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 pum. Okay, they don't do the pum pum anymore. I missed the pum pum at the end of that. Anyway,
You know what song that is, right?
it is something of the cuckoo, not of the cuckoos. What is it? Flowers?
No.
What?
I'm a little teapot. And pop me down.
Kinda.
Tip me over and turn me out. Yeah, okay. It's something they don't have to pay for.
It's close. It's kind of close. Yeah.
Okay.
I think did Merv Griffin write that song? I'm not joking.
I don't know. He
Yeah.
came up with the show. No, okay. Here we go.
Here we go. I'll read the question one more. 3, 2, 1. 1961. Tonight was the third and final match between Ingemar Johansson and the heavyweight boxer. This heavyweight boxer. Can you name him? 3, 2, 1. Hold up your answers, please. Leslie, don't say anything. Don't look. Okay, Leslie, who's your answer? Close your eyes.
I was either I can only think of Joe Louis or Sugar Ray Robinson because I don't really know boxing.
So pick one.
Joe Louis would have been really old by then.
Their arms are getting tired, Leslie.
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Okay, everybody, things down, stuff down. So I saw Sonny Liston, I saw Muhammad Ali, and I saw a Sugar Ray Robinson. And I stumped all you guys. The answer is Floyd Patterson.
I was gonna say Floyd Patterson.
Floyd Patterson. In fact, what happened was it went for a couple of years. Johnson, they met in the first match. Johansson pummeled Patterson in the first match. They had a rematch,
right.
and then Johansson lost the next two to Patterson. And then they became friends for the rest of their lives. They actually became good friends. So no points to anyone on that. But even before that question, boy, oh boy, Leslie Hoban Blake. What let's get some applause. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
can
wear the hat from now on. This is it. This is the lucky hat, guys. You're stuck with it.
all right. Well, let's remind everybody, and first of all, thank everybody for playing. Leslie, we can watch you and our mutual friend Charlie Gross co-hosting the podcast Critics' Choice on YouTube.
Critics Circle. No, Critics Circle.
Critics Circle.
My podcast is Critics' Choice, but it hasn't started yet. So
Sorry.
it's
Okay. Critics Circle. And it's on, what's the most recent? Did you do anyone this week or last
Yes,
week?
we just did one. We did a catch up. We recorded it on March 11th, which to us was the end of the world, of course. And so we recorded it and we talked about the Tonys and the ridiculousness of the Tonys. And we talked about the shows that are coming in. I actually saw a commercial yesterday for Six on television.
A commercial
They
for
paid
sex.
money
I want
up
to see that
front.
commercial.
Right.
No, it's the Broadway musical Six, the number 6. Yeah, for that.
The
Yeah.
musical Six actually paid money to make a commercial that says, "We'll be back. We don't know when, but we're coming to see you." And then they played a bit of Unbreakable, which is one of the numbers in the show.
Whoa!
So there are we have about 6 or 8 confirmed shows for fall of 2021. The big question is, would you go into the theater?
With my 2 shots, I would. I wouldn't even wear a mask. I would not. You know. No, I'm not. That's not a joke. I don't know why you're laughing.
Because I'm going with a mask, with the shots, with the social distancing. I doubt that I can go back.
Why?
Because I'm that afraid.
But you don't feel that? I mean, the shots are going to be 90. If you're taking Pfizer or even.
I'm not. I got Pfizer. I am not going to be I don't mind getting a shot. I do mind going into an enclosed place where I'm sure we got sick all the time from all kinds of things, with people from all over the world, bringing all kinds of germs. With variants
those immigrants.
No,
yeah.
No, it's variants. It's variant germ of viruses that I'm afraid of. That's what I'm afraid of.
Well,
so I also wouldn't go into a movie theater. I wouldn't go to a sports arena, an enclosed sports arena. I just couldn't do that right now. I go to the gym. I go to the pool. That's why I'm late, and that's why I look like this. I came from the
pool. You look great, Leslie, but all right.
Because they closed our pool they're closing our pool for renovation, so I didn't want to miss a day. I'm trying to tank up, no pun intended, on the pool.
I used to go swimming in swimming pools. I didn't mind children's urine. I actually swam towards it because the acid in there kills things. I mean, it's fun. Bill, yeah.
I like to go to the park and lick park benches.
Oh, God.
Just a little hobby of mine. It's going back many years.
Well, Bill, you understand that David and I are critics, so it's part of our job, literally, to go into the theater and do this. And for the only time in my life since I was 11 years old, I am afraid to go to the theater. I can't see myself going in.
I just thought, because everybody was saying a few months ago, like, oh, I would never, because the shot was almost like a something in the air and the wind wasn't really happening. Now that everybody's getting the shots and so many people have had it, I don't know. I feel like
I'm hoping that with the shot I'll get to hug my kids again. That's about the only thing I can think of.
See, I hope to hug your kids again too after I get my shot. That's important to me. Wendy and Fred, let me ask you real quick. And Wendy and Fred, Wendy is a librarian at the University of Northern Colorado, and she's also a published authoress. I know it's a terribly sexist way of putting that, but I know they canceled Little Theater of the Rockies locally, the local theater troupe from the summer. Are you going to go? Have you gone to the movies? Are you going to go?
No. I watch things on Zoom. That's about it.
Well, what about like 2 months or 3-4 months from now?
Depends on how many people got the shot. The variant situation.
I mean, go to a restaurant, and sit in a restaurant and have a meal,
Yeah, we haven't done that either, so.
Not yet.
We got delivery last night. That's what we do.
Well, I'm thinking 3 or 4 or 5 months down the line, not tomorrow, but still.
It really depends on if everyone's gotten vaccinated more or less.
All right.
Yeah, I've got my appointment for a couple weeks from now.
I might go to a science fiction convention in October. I don't know yet.
Yeah, where's that?
It's in Denver.
Oh, so it's just a drive. You're not getting on a plane and yeah.
No.
Yeah, got it. All right. Well,
is it in an arena or is it in
it's a hotel.
Okay. And well, Bill, as you said, where you are now in Cambodia, there's virtually nothing. But Thailand's in lockdown. So when you get to Thailand,
but they don't have that many either. I mean, they've had you got to remember, Thailand is a population of 78 million. They've had about, I forget what it was, but for a long time, it was like 3,000. They've only had like 27 people die, 40 people, something like that. They jump on it right away. I mean, everybody cooperates. With the Asian countries, they're raised to do things for the betterment of all. Not just think about me. Well, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Just within the last 2 weeks, and this is, considered a third world country. The last 2 weeks, they've set up this thing with everywhere you go, a barber shop, a butcher shop, a ice cream place, the market. They've set up these little QR codes outside of everywhere. And you take your smartphone and you go up there and you scan the QR code, and it tells them through this app where you've been, and it keeps track of you, and everybody does it, and nobody bitches and gripes about, oh, you're tracking me and all this stuff. But so they keep it under control, and nobody complains because they all understand it's for the betterment of all. And that's what's not happening
And
in
the
the
government
United
knows where
States.
you've been every single step of the way of every day of your life. I would complain. I
Yeah.
would have a little problem with that.
Well,
It
it keeps you, but think of it this way: if you went to a restaurant and there was somebody that had COVID, wouldn't you want to know?
well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, well, they can tell you. I don't care. I mean, I'm not doing anything so nefarious that they,
It's interesting though, Bill. I have a director friend. Uh, there are people who are Asian. I don't want to make generalizations, but most Asian countries really like American musicals. And
Yes.
so I have friends who are directors who have actually been able to get paid very well to go to, I don't know about Thailand, but definitely Japan and South Korea and places like that. I'm trying to, Sammy Canold, who just came back from, she's the one who directed the Encore thing that everybody loved, but I can't remember the title of it. Anyway, they because there are not, their directors are not yet up to snuff on American musicals unless they've come here to study.
Hero Dari, where Hero Dari. I'm sorry. Oh, the other Carol Kane show.
I don't know if I'm laughing at David's joke or at the idiocy of saying that. I'm not sure which one is making me laugh, but
both.
Well,
okay.
I think this is going to change the way, especially with films, the way things are done, and they already are changing. I haven't been to a movie theater in years, and I've gone to go see like IMAX stuff. I'll go, but I go to a movie theater in my normal life 3 years ago, maybe once, maybe twice a year. And it's usually at an IMAX. And I lived in Austin, Texas, where they had a thing called the Alamo Draft House, where if you talked or opened up your phone or started to be obtrusive, they tell you this: we will kick your ass out.
Whoa.
They have a very funny thing at the beginning of this movie. So I quit going to movie theaters, and I told movie operators years ago, I said, your big enemy is not how much the studio. Your enemy is people that you let go into this theater that screw up the experience for everybody else with their talking and crackling of the popcorn and talking back to the screen and so that's what took it away from me. I got tired of paying $10 to go see a movie and having to listen to some guy talk about his girlfriend, how to get, so that went away from me a long time ago.
I stopped going to the movies like when they closed the Princess Porn Palace on 45th Street back in 1981. I was just like, I just hung up my raincoat. I'm saying I can watch this at home,
But I just haven't. I haven't gone to the movie. I've been to play.
You haven't gone to movies since they cost $10, which is a long time ago.
Yeah, maybe well, you know what? It depends on where you are, how much it costs. It's like gasoline.
You don't know my cousin Steve Schwartzman down in Austin, did you?
No.
Okay, he was a math professor.
Yeah, because everybody.
Well, I really didn't know
everybody in Austin. Everybody in Austin knows everybody else.
Austin's a nice town.
Before as we thank Bill Kirkenbauer for being with us and being so delightful and so much fun in the neighborhood, a shout out from my cousin Jeffrey Kirsch. I know you're friends with him on Facebook.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine on Facebook. I recognize the name. So
shout out to him. He's my cousin, and he's been on. He was one of the earliest players of the Today Yesterday game. He said he was gonna try and join us at the tail end of Rabbi Sol Solomon's convo, but he didn't. So Jeffrey,
can I? Yes, hi to Jeffrey. Can I mention just one thing? That I too have a podcast. It's called the Kirkenbauer Half an Hour.
Oh,
HAFFENHAUER. Kirkenbauer Half an Hour.
12 more times so I can actually write that down.
Yeah. Kirkenbauer.
HAFFEN.
KIRCHENBAUER. And then half an hour. HAFFEN AUR. AUER.
AUE.
Half an hour.
You can't even. All right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And I've been doing that for about a year. We just finished our first season. I've had a lot of great comedians on, Ellen Zweibel and Bobby Slayton, and some really great, some interesting people. I'm lucky enough to know a lot of interesting people, and they've been agreed to be on my show. I've had fun. I've had Kirkenbauer half an hour. HAFFENAUER.
Where can people, is it on Spotify? Where is it?
If they go to, if you go to halfanour.com.
And spelled that way.
HAFFENHAUER.
Bill, did you change your name to become a personality?
No, I did not change my name on purpose. They wanted me to change it, but I said, I like Bill and I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to change it.
I don't know,
They wanted to go with Fred.
Sam Kirkenbauer has kind of a ring. Speaking of all of this, David, I need you to get John Pielmeyer in touch with me, please.
Oh, I got your.
Okay, thank you.
Off that. Yeah, I will give him your.
Okay, I know. Okay.
Anyway, so thank you, everybody. I've got to give a big thank you to Leslie Hoban Blake. Remind you to watch her in Critics Circle with Charlie Gross, and that's on YouTube. Thank you again to Fred and Wendy, and hope that you're well. And how's the weather looking now? It's been like an hour since you've been on here. Is it worse?
Nothing's happened yet.
Still waiting.
Are you waiting for the snowstorm?
Yes.
There's like a monster. So, and Bill Kirkenbauer, who probably hasn't seen snow in how many years has it been? Certainly,
let's see. When's the last time I seen snow? I don't know. I don't know. They don't have it here.
Well, Kirkenbauer.
The closest thing to that is you go down and lock yourself in the freezer at the grocery store. That's about as close as you're going to get.
I mean, in Cambodia, the freezer is 87 degrees. I mean, that's
yes,
cool.
That's good.
Oh,
it's so cold. The freezer is 87. Yeah.
Bill Kirkenbauer.
And please send a shout out to David Stewart and thank him for not being here.
Yeah, for letting Leslie run away.
So I had a chance this morning.
A shout out to David Stewart, our great friend, and to his mom.
Remember his mom? She's like, this is boring. Remember
Not too. All right. I hope her arm hurts worse than my arm hurt all week from the shot. That's right. She said this show's boring. I'm like, well, thank you, David's mom. Always, everyone's a critic.
I don't understand that. I don't know anybody else. What kind did you get? Pfizer or Moderna?
I got the Pfizer. I went to Aqueduct Racetrack, got the Pfizer, and my arm was killing me. I mean, it was killing me.
Really?
But you have an urge to wear a saddle.
It was sore, and it's still. It's still a little sore in places, you know. And I have grown polyps in places you don't want to know, so it's having its effect. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of our guests in the neighborhood. Remember, it's Kirkenbauer. Kirkenbauer
half an hour
at halfanour.com. Also, then you were telling Rabbi Sol the bit you do with the thing with the Robin Williams.
Yes, the Robin Williams streaming show is going to be on April 1st on Stellar Entertainment. It's STELLAR, StellarEntertainment.com. It's a streaming service. A lot of great shows. They have a lot of great shows on there, actually.
But the one that what is it called? The Robin Williams?
It's called the Robin Tribute Show on there.
Robin Tribute Show. Got it.
Robin Williams Tribute Show.
It is a tribute to me that I have such wonderful people on Dave's Gone By. I want to thank you so much. I want to wish you all great health and no variants in your life.
Thank you.
A lot of snow.
I have a water buffalo I have to feed.
Bye-bye, everybody. I'm going to remove you one by one, but thank you so much for being in
Thank you, sir.
The neighborhood. Bye-bye now.
Rabbi Sol, hi. Okay, bye.
I'll give him a shalom from you.